After a bizarre accident, this guy ends up with fragments of his phone embedded in his brain. The outcome? He gains cyber powers, allowing him to watch anime just by thinking about it. Nah, just kidding. But he does acquire some extraordinary abilities, and trust me, you don't want to miss the name he comes up with for his superhero alter ego. Now, let's meet Tom, an unassuming nerd who finds solace from the chaotic world outside by immersing himself in the game Plants vs. Zombies. You see, his neighborhood is plagued by a menacing gang. One fateful day in class, Tom's attention is solely fixated on the object of his affection, Lucy. His mind goes blank, and his eyes light up with a spark. It feels as though time has frozen, and in this moment, all that matters is Lucy. Unfortunately, Lucy remains unaware of Tom's existence, as she's engrossed in drawing a pug dressed as a ninja. Suddenly, Professor Bumble snaps Tom out of his trance with a question that leaves him dumbfounded. Confusion spreads across his face, and the classroom falls silent, every eye trained on him. Even Lucy pauses momentarily, waiting to hear his response. Turtles, Tom blurts out, and the class erupts in snickers. This is geometry, Lucy chuckles, joining in on the amusement. The bell rings, signaling the end of class, and Tom makes his way toward the exit. There stands Danny, his best friend since kindergarten, who notices Tom's longing glances at Lucy. "I see you looking at her, man. Go talk to her," Danny advises before walking away. Now alone, Tom is torn. He gazes at Lucy, and as if reading his mind, she smiles at him and starts walking in their direction. Danny nudges Tom, exclaiming, "See, she wants you," before disappearing into the crowd. Tom's cheeks flush with embarrassment as he looks back at Lucy. She stands before him, saying, "Hey, do you have a minute?" Tom is taken aback by her unexpected approach. "Sure," he stammers, his mind racing. "I was wondering if you could come over tonight and help me with my math homework. I'm really stuck on this problem." Tom attempts a smooth response, but his nerves get the better of him. He awkwardly agrees to come over later. Just then, Eugene and his gang of goons arrive to harass him. Thankfully, Lucy shoos them away, a gesture she will soon regret. Tom retreats to his home, seeking solace in front of the television. His grandmother sits behind him, engrossed in her romance novel. Tom seeks her advice on when he should go see Lucy. Later, she says cryptically, but Tom is clueless about the timing. Truth be told, he's too anxious to make a move. Sensing his hesitation, his grandmother mischievously reads aloud from her novel, captivating his attention. Suddenly, inspiration strikes, and Tom sets off for Lucy's apartment. However, upon arrival, he discovers the door is already ajar. He cautiously steps inside, calling out for Lucy but receives only distressing whimpers in response. The cries emanate from the back of the apartment, compelling him to venture deeper, desperately calling out her name. As he enters a room, a horrifying sight greets him, a bloody gash on Lucy's brother's head as he lies on the floor. Tom hurried down the hallway towards Lucy's room, the sounds growing louder as he approached. Just as he was about to enter, a group of masked men emerged, brandishing guns and aiming them at him. Fear gripped Tom, and he instinctively reached for his phone. With trembling hands, he dialed 911, but before he could utter a word, a gunshot rang out, and Tom collapsed. Several days passed before Tom regained consciousness. As he opened his eyes, he found his grandmother sitting beside him, her gaze fixed on a book. It was difficult to interpret her expression, leaving Tom unsure of her true emotions. Soon after, a doctor entered the room to check on him and declared that everything seemed fine, except for the X-ray revealing fragments of his phone embedded in his brain. The doctor advised him to report any unusual observations. Thomas was discharged from the hospital and, accompanied by his grandmother, he got into a taxi. During the taxi ride, his grandmother expressed her joy at his recovery, but Tom couldn't shake off a strange feeling as he stared at the flickering radio display, almost as if it were pleading for him to stop. Later, Tom decided to visit Lucy, not forgetting to grab some flowers. As he entered the elevator, he unexpectedly encountered Eugene and Cass, members of a gang who had bullied him before. Though surprised by their presence, they pressed the button for Lucy's floor. Eugene's usual mean streak surfaced when he noticed the flowers in Tom's hand. "Are those for your grandma?" they teased him, with Eugene's grin making Tom uncomfortable. Safely in Lucy's room, Tom found solace in her voice and the sight of her happiness upon receiving the flowers. However, her mood shifted as her eyes welled up with tears. Determined not to run away again, Tom made a silent promise to himself, one that Lucy immediately countered with a reminder that they both felt powerless, knowing their attackers had escaped justice. Tom returned home, his mind spinning with a mix of electronic noises and overlapping phone conversations that seemed to reverberate within his skull. Recognizing Tom's disorientation, his grandmother sensed something was amiss and became worried, yet she remained uncertain about what to do. Exhausted, Tom retreated to his room and drifted into a dream where his internet router connected to the phones of Eugene and the other gang members, replaying the attack on Lucy. After a night of terror, Tom awoke, questioning whether it had all been a dream or a disturbing reality. When he resumed his classes, the memory of the assault on Lucy still haunted him, making it difficult to concentrate. He found himself perceiving signals from phones as ethereal fireflies dancing through the air. Suddenly, he caught sight of Eugene sending a video of the assault to a friend. Fueled by anger, Tom unleashed his newfound powers, causing Eugene's phone to malfunction. Frustrated, he wished it had exploded instead. Later that night, Tom attended a party he was invited to by Danny. As he takes a seat, memories from the video of Lucy being attacked flood his mind. He realizes that the very people who assaulted her are present at this party. Locking eyes with Eugene, a sinister smirk on his face, Tom's expression turns serious as he marches towards him and engages in a tense stare-down. Eugene perceives this as a declaration of war, and a physical altercation seems imminent. Luckily, Danny intervenes just in time, escorting Tom outside to reprimand him for his out-of-line behavior, walks away, leaving the scene. Later that night, Eugene receives a mysterious text from an unknown number, ominously stating, "I'm coming for you." The scene cuts to Tom in his bedroom, engrossed in YouTube videos on hacking techniques. By morning, Tom has transformed into Hacker Man and is determined to trace Eugene's whereabouts. Stealthily tailing Eugene, Tom hacks into his phone and discovers their rendezvous point in a back alley, where Eugene and an unidentified individual meet to arrange a mysterious deal. Tom, hiding behind a garbage bin, realizes that his position will intersect with their path once Eugene and the other person depart. Faced with a difficult choice, he sends a text to both of them, saying, "Behind you." They turn around but find nothing. In the blink of an eye, Tom vanishes, leaving Eugene bewildered by his disappearing act. Meanwhile, Lucy, cautiously stepping out of her apartment for the first time since the attack, remains on edge, anticipating another potential assault. However, nothing happens as a group of boys pass by without incident. She regains her composure. Later that night, we catch up with Tom, who finds immense satisfaction in using his newfound hacking abilities to torment Eugene and his gang. Blasting music and sound effects through their speakers, he revels in their discomfort. Something catches his attention: Cass, engaging in peculiar behavior with tissue paper. It piques Tom's curiosity. The following day at school, an assembly on responsible technology use and good behavior takes place. The principal emphasizes the importance of avoiding distractions from learning. Just as the principal mentions this, a video of Cass from the previous night appears on the projector, initially perplexing the students but soon leading to chaos and laughter as they understand its nature. Amidst the commotion, Cass flees in embarrassment, while the teachers scramble to turn off the video. Sometime later, Tom and Lucy spend time together in her room. Tom recalls the incident with Cass, and in that moment, Lucy Sullivan receives a text from an unknown number. Suspecting the sender to be responsible for the prank on Cass, she contemplates the identity of the mysterious individual. Unbeknownst to her, Tom had decided to adopt an alter ego named iBoy. Little did she know, iBoy had taken an oath to protect her. Curious about her love life, iBoy asked if she had a boyfriend, to which she replied with a clear denial, assuming there was no romantic connection between them. Prompted by this response, iBoy mustered up the courage to ask her out on a proper date. They went out for a meal and chatted about their favorite trends, like TikTok dances or whatever the latest teenage interests were. Upon returning home, they unexpectedly encountered Eugene and the rest of the gang. They cornered Tom, suspecting him of being the one responsible for their recent troubles. The situation escalated, almost turning physical, until the gang members received a text message revealing they had mistaken Tom for someone else. Seizing the opportunity, Tom and Lucy made their escape while the boys anxiously scanned the surroundings, unaware that iBoy was far from finished with them. Later that night, the boys stumbled upon an enticing car, practically begging to be burglarized. Skillfully gaining access, they all piled into the vehicle. However, before they could settle in, the car mysteriously locked itself. Panicking, one of them exclaimed, "Oh no, stepbrothers, we're stuck." The Cass's voice trembled as he surveyed the bewildered faces of the others. How did that happen? Eugene wondered, his eyes widening as he realized his hand was still on the locked door handle. "I didn't even touch anything." Suddenly, The sound of the engine starting reverberated, and the car began to tremble, accompanied by billowing smoke from the engine. An eerie voice emerged from the radio, demanding answers regarding Lucy's assault. Now, Tom embarked on a quest to find Cuts at his apartment. As he arrived, he noticed two other individuals present, including Danny, which spelled trouble. Suddenly, the TV was hacked, displaying a shocking video involving Cuts' car. The three men hastily left the apartment to investigate, providing Tom with the perfect opportunity to slip inside unnoticed. Exploiting his newfound powers, he wreaked havoc, causing destruction and chaos. Satisfied with the mess he created, Tom scoured the apartment for sustenance and stumbled upon a valuable item, an exceedingly rare Himalayan salt worth a fortune in the black market. Considering his mission a success, armed with the valuable salt and a meticulously crafted plan for revenge, Tom knew what he had to do. He began by planting the salt in the homes of all the gang members, marking the beginning of his retaliation. He made the call to the police, and one by one, they apprehended the members of the salt gang. Even the tough guy, Eugene, was taken down in the aftermath. Tom gazed upon the city, feeling victorious, believing that the salt gang would never terrorize innocent people again. However, his confidence was soon shattered. Following the arrests, Cuts contacted the true leader, Elman, and informed him of the situation. Elman warned Cuts to get to the bottom of it, threatening to harm him if he failed. Cuts rounded up the gang members who had evaded capture and instructed them to steal all the electronics in the neighborhood. One day, when Tom returned home, he discovered the police interrogating his grandmother in the living room. They, too, had fallen victim to the thieves. Not having seen her grandson for a while, his grandmother took the opportunity to question his recent activities. Tom chose not to reveal his alter ego as the superhero I-Boy but instead vaguely explained his efforts to create positive change before leaving in search of answers. Meanwhile, Tom's grandmother approached Danny, expressing concern over Tom's peculiar behavior and frequent absence from home. Danny's face displayed a hint of suspicion. On the other hand, Tom followed Cuts on his bike, observing him closely. Cuts appeared to have come to a halt, but upon closer inspection, Tom realized that Cuts had merely discarded his phone, perhaps deeming it time for an upgrade. Tom, resourceful as ever, looked up and utilized nearby helicopters to gain a better vantage point, enabling him to continue the pursuit. After a while, Tom arrived at a dock, where it seemed a transaction was taking place. Encountering some opposition, Tom quickly downloaded karate moves and even accessed the opponent's medical history, identifying a weakness in his leg. He struck the weak point, bringing him down and rendering him unconscious. Tom then turned his attention to a nearby container, which contained a large quantity of salt. Suddenly, he was ambushed by henchmen who beat him relentlessly, leaving him lying on the ground, battered and bruised. The following morning at school, Lucy confronted Tom, upset that he had stood her up for a test they were supposed to take together. As they walked outside, they noticed Cass oddly hanging around, appearing quite foolish. Later that night, Tom was roused by a sound, prompting him to investigate further. What he discovers is the chilling sensation of a gun pressed against the back of his head, signaling the unfortunate turn this adventure is about to take. He is coerced into the living room where Elman, the formidable boss, awaits his arrival. Timid Tom stands there, frozen with fear. Suddenly, his feisty grandma arrives, hurling curses at the villains before being struck unconscious. Thankfully, she seems unharmed. Amand, for now, doesn't appear overly interested in harming Tom, at least not immediately. It turns out that Amand harbors a peculiar suspicion. He believes Tom possesses the ability to control electronics with his mind. How he arrived at this conclusion remains a mystery. In any case, all Amand desires is for Tom to employ his cybernetic powers to transfer money into his account. Naturally, Tom refuses, prompting Amand to reveal the true power of money. He presents Danny, disclosing that he was the one who informed on Tom's potential interference. However, the source of his knowledge about Tom's powers remains unclear, but that detail is brushed aside. Amand proceeds to explain that Danny's actions were motivated solely by a craving for money, specifically the currency adorned with the Queen's likeness. He orders Danny to open his mouth, stuffing it with money before dismissing the traitor. This display of dominance fails to sway Tom significantly. Consequently, Amand introduces another one of his associates, Lucy. Tom employs his powers and discerns that Lucy has been kidnapped. Left with no alternative, he reluctantly begins transferring money into Amand's accounts, all the while triangulating Lucy's whereabouts and relaying the information to the police. Everything seems to be going according to plan until one sharp-eyed henchman notices a change in Tom's expression. It turns out Tom's reaction was prompted by the arrival of the police at Lucy's location. Amund instructs his goons to investigate, but there's no response. It appears they must take this operation on the move. During the car ride, Amund takes note of Tom's extraordinary abilities and casually mentions that he was acquainted with Tom's mother, who apparently had the softest hands in town, though the relevance of this detail remains unclear. Meanwhile, the police raid the warehouse where Lucy is held captive, but the goons manage to conceal her. Eventually, the law enforcement officers depart, and in the ensuing celebration, the boys momentarily lose sight of Lucy. In that brief moment, she seizes the opportunity to arm herself, brandishing a Glock at the startled lads, who swiftly adopt a different demeanor, becoming courteous and apologetic. Lucy compels them to apologize for their attack, and they vow never to act maliciously again. Shortly thereafter, Amund arrives at the warehouse, only to be greeted by Lucy and her gun. Outnumbered, she finds herself at a disadvantage. However, the boys who had promised to change their ways return and aim their weapons at her. Tom is forced onto his knees, compelled to resume the money transfer. Strangely, he is unable to comply, escalating tensions further. Amund pushes him, intensifying the situation. Then Tom spoke up, questioning, "If you had the chance to walk away right now, wouldn't it be better than delivering weak one-liners, bro?" Regardless, Tom somehow managed to make all the gang members' phones explode, causing everyone except the final boss, Elman, to fall into a deep sleep. Elman, who was far from defeated, engaged Tom in a brief battle amid the pouring rain. Tom later woke up in the hospital, finding his grandma by his side, but her lack of enthusiasm upon seeing him regain consciousness remained unchanged. Our gripping tale concludes with Tom and Lucy gazing over the city, having officially become a couple.